What are your thoughts on what he just said, Kiki?
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is the judge himself. They even Megan Kelly even said it. The judge is leaving the door open for this fruit of the poisonous tree, Frank's hearing, and I think what's interesting is Howard Bloom, even with oftentimes taking the side of guilt, he is admitting from what he knows, and of course he knows about a little bit more than we know, but not
Yeah.
too much more. He's saying that they don't have much more evidence than the DNA, and that without the DNA, the case isn't strong enough. And so, it's interesting. It's interesting to see when he comes out. That it seems like a pretty objective opinion to take. So, anyway, those are my immediate thoughts.
Yeah, because he said without the DNA, it's problematic for the prosecution. Yeah, yeah, basically that's what he's saying. Without this IgG, without this buccal swab, it's problematic for the prosecution because like he said, there's no motive, there's no connection to the victims. Despite what we hear coming from these various other news sources like Ashley Banfield and Nancy Grace, saying that there is a connection. Well, Bill Thompson stood up in open court and said there was no there was no evidence of stalking, there was no connection to the victims, there was no motive. So if you eliminate all that stuff, and if all you have is the IgG, which is the DNA, that would be very problematic for a jury to find him guilty. If it shows that there was no connection to any of these victims, that would be a very problematic situation for the prosecution when it comes to a jury. I mean, yes, they can tout that they have his IgG or they have his DNA actually, but at the same time, how they came to the IgG on Brian. There's no chain of custody going from the ISP to Othram and from Othram to the FBI. There's no chain of custody, and there's also a 7-minute delay, and I don't know if it was an accidental on the behalf of the MPD or if it was on purpose, but there's the 8-hour delay, and now there's a 7-minute delay. If the 8-hour delay never happened, then that would have a smooth smooth timeline. But you had 8 hours from the time the murders happened until 911 was called, and if the murders even happened in the 4 a.m. hours, because we have all this activity around the house between 2:54 and 3:16, because you had the Banfield alcohol stop at 2:54 in the morning, and of course they stopped Saeed at first, and he's tall, he's got bushy eyebrows, and then you had the other three that they stopped, and one of the other three says, "Oh well, we thought you were fake people." And I don't know why that student said he thought the police was fake people, but when they were walking up towards the cop car, and they had those three guys standing there, you could clearly see out of the corner of the body cam at least 4 or 5 people either fast walking or running away from the house towards Sigma Chi. Now, mind you, Kaylee's phone went offline at 2:56 a.m. It didn't go offline at 4 o'clock. It didn't go offline at 4:05 or 4:10 or 4:20. It went offline at 2:56. And what did you see? Fast walking or running away from the house at around 3 something in the morning was about 4 or 5 people going towards Sigma Chi. So, with the with the murders happening supposedly at 4 in the morning. Yeah, that don't make no sense with the fact that Kaylee's phone went offline at 2:56. So that would mean that the murders happened earlier than the 4 a.m. timeline. But the MPD don't want us to think that, because the only thing that matters is suspect vehicle 1 coming into the scene at 3:29. I mean, what are your thoughts on what I just said, Kiki?
Well, I mean, in order for the timeline to be earlier, there would have to be a lot of things involved, because it includes forensic downloads of the phones. So that would all have to have been faked, all 6 people in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're basing that on the forensic downloads. So yes, there would have to be nefarious activity and people involved in each of their phones to a certain point. Of course, Kaylee's only until 2:56, but then the other roommates, respectively, I mean, assuming Maddie and Ethan didn't touch their phones, but we know Xana phone activity, Bethany phone activity, and Dylan phone activity all verified in the PCA. So it would be, I don't know how the timeline gets shifted unless there was a much huger event we just don't know about. And then, kind of back to, you were at the beginning of what you were talking about, you were saying about probable cause. And I would just say, like, yeah, if the DNA was gone, I think a lot of it becomes circumstantial, because some of this, we don't know what they have for video evidence, but it sounds like it's not definitive ID in some of these videos. So if there was definitive ID, then that would be better than circumstantial evidence, but it doesn't sound like they have that. So I do think the case becomes circumstantial without the DNA. And yeah, it would be much harder. I think, just to full circle bring back what you were talking about.
Yeah, because all they have evidence-wise coming out of that house is, I think, 113 pieces of evidence total for the victims, or 117 pieces of evidence. That's not very much evidence coming out of that house, because that's cumulative to all 4 of the victims, is the 113 or the 117 pieces of evidence. That's not very much evidence at all coming out of that house. And then, of course, you have the they found the unknown male DNA on the glove outside. Then they found an unknown male DNA going up to the second floor. Well, the way I feel is, with that unknown male DNA found on the railing going up to the second floor, that would mean someone would have had to have left out of that front door after the murders, and just so happened to put their hand on the railing and get blood on the railing, because that don't make no sense that this person goes out the sliding glass door. Then if that's the case, then why is there blood going from the second floor to the first floor on the railing? And Olivia Gonzalez has stated that everyone in that vicinity, in that neighborhood, knew the code for the front door, because it's an iconic home. It just boggles my mind exactly how that blood got there on the railing, going from the first floor to the second floor. That's what I can't understand. Because you have Dylan saying that she's seen the perpetrator leaving out the sliding glass door. Well, if that's the case, what if there was 2 perps, and she only saw one leaving out the sliding glass door, and the other one was going out the front door? That's a very viable theory. You know what I'm saying? And as far as Dylan goes, I'm not knocking her in any way. Don't get me wrong. But she's done stated to the police she didn't see nothing that night, didn't know nothing. She didn't know it was real or a dream. And then she told the police, the third interview, that she was totally drunk. So her exact memory of the description of the person leaving comes into question and after she had changed her story numerous times with the police after the crime. So we really don't know what she really saw that night, because she has stated she was absolutely drunk that night. So does that bring into question her statements in the PCA? Because yeah, there's always been the saying about there was more than one person committing this crime. So I mean, she could have saw someone leaving out the front door, and when they found the blood on the railing, going from the second floor to the first floor, yeah, someone could have been leaving out the sliding glass door, and then somebody could have been leaving out the front door. Yeah, and she would all she would have saw was one person leaving when there was actually two people in the house.
I see what you're saying, and but where I'm at, because we've been discussing this DNA for so long, where I'm at is like, have they identified it or have they not identified it yet? And then I want to know like when we're talking blood, are we talking about specks of blood? Did anyone come forward and say they knew about the blood? Did one of the roommates say they've known about it? I mean, I still don't think it explains away
Yeah,
not testing blood at a crime scene, but I do wonder those questions. Did they? And what type of condition was it? And if they found the glove a couple days later, because I don't know. No, I take that back. This glove was found, I think, the first sweep of the crime scene. I think we sometimes mix up the gloves, but was the glove relevant? Was it irrelevant? I don't know. But I mean, it stinks because we just don't know enough about that unknown DNA and if it was tested or not. We just know in Anne's declaration that as of summer of 2023, they still had no profiles on 3 unknown male DNAs, according to her declaration.
yeah, because I mean, if you remember, Kiki, you had Bill Thompson saying, "Well, how can we test something that doesn't exist?" So I mean, that right there is telling me that, and it was clearly evident that there was three unknown male DNAs found in the home, and then you have Bill Thompson saying, "Well, how can we test something that doesn't exist?" So was the prosecution trying to cover something up in this crime? That's the thing, and we may never know exactly if they were actually trying to cover something up, because all it would take for Ann Taylor is to ask for those DNAs so she could get them tested, and if I remember correctly, she did ask for those DNAs, and that's when Bill Thompson said, "Well, how can we give you something that doesn't exist?" So, I mean, was Bill Thompson trying to hide something with the 3 unknown male DNAs? I don't know. I'm not in the mind of Bill Thompson. But it would, it would be more expedient if he actually did turn it over so she could get it tested. And just like with the alibi, he came up with Y Park, that he was out with Y Park that night, and people scrutinized his alibi, but after that alibi, we heard nothing more about the alibi, like, at all. Yeah. Now, if he tries to, I honestly believe if he tries to bring the alibi back up, Judge Hippler is going to shoot it down, because it's been too long since he came up with the alibi, since he came up with the Y Park alibi, and he could have very well been at the Y Park that night, or driving around, because there was something going on, like literally a block from his house, that apartment that night, is that sorority girl running over those 2 people. Yeah, and they had the police, the fire. They were doing roving. The police were doing roving patrols that night, which makes me wonder exactly how would he get out of that parking lot with the police having the entire area cordoned off. I don't know. I think it was Twiz that I talked to, and Twiz said that there was another exit and entrance to the apartment on the south side or something like that. So I mean, he could have got out from another entrance exit, but I mean, it's kind of bad even when Cy Ray is up there saying that the cast report is junk, and the cast report is just a piece of paper without the AT&T records. But of course, Mowry only did what 18, what I think what 2% of the cast report or 18% of the cast report. So yeah, so is Cy Ray? I don't think he's going to testify, but from what he saw, that he knows Brian was nowhere near the house is the way he was putting it on the stand that one time, if I remember correctly, Kiki. I honestly believe that this case is not only going to be, it's a high profile case, but at the same time, you're going to have you're going to have a lot of emotions tied up in the Supreme Court if he's found guilty and sentenced to death. This case will be tied up in the Supreme Court for at least next 10 years, and the victims' families will be dealing with this case for the rest of their life, or until he's put to death. But I don't always agree with the Gonzalez family, but I do feel sorry for them because they did lose a daughter, and I honestly feel that they're being left out of the loop. When it comes to this case, they are deliberately being left out of the loop. And do you have any feeling why they might be being left out of the loop when it comes to this case?
I mean, I don't know. I would just say I watched Nancy Grace at one point say that she was disgusted that these parents hadn't been handled correctly, that there's supposed to be people handling parents. And, so yeah, I just don't think that overall things just weren't handled correctly in this case. And when it comes to the parents, but then on the other hand, we did see Mrs. Chapin donate $1,000 to Chief Fry's election campaign for sheriff. So some people approve of it,
Yeah.
but I do think the Gonzalez's were the most vocal against the police. And I think that's probably where friction started. There was a lot of friction with the media. And then there's the fact that a lot of people tried to tell Steve Gonzalez, if you continuously come out trying to lean the press against, the defendant, it's possible that people will push back and lean against you. And I think that there was a little of that going on, but I don't know. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, let me look at the change of venue. I honestly believe the change of venue would have never happened if Nancy Grace's shows hadn't flooded the area, and if the Gonzalez family hadn't went out and did their own jury surveys. If they wouldn't have did their own jury surveys, I don't think the case would have ever been moved out of Latah. And I think the reason why it was moved out of Latah was because of them doing their own jury surveys, as well as the saturation of like Nancy Grace and Ashley Banfield. And that's why I believe it was moved, because of oversaturation from the media. And then, of course,
I had no idea when the wheels of motion came into that, but yeah, I think it's funny that we were looking at that and things got changed right as they did those juror surveys. It is an interesting connection.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Kiki again for coming on my show. Do you have anything coming up this week, Kiki, that you would like to share with my audience?
Yeah, I'm actually, I actually filmed a video earlier today, and I'm working on editing it, and it's coming out in a little while. And it's a story that comes from one of my mods, Mikey. You guys are gonna love it. Mikey.
Yeah.
He always comes up with some great stories, but this one in particular, I've never seen research on Othram Lab like what he has shown me. So I can't wait to bring it to my audience. And thank you so much for having me on, Robert. It's so nice to see your audience again and get to say hi and brainstorm with you and do a little think tank and
Yep.
get everybody caught up on the case. So thanks again for having me.
All right. You guys have a good day. This is True Crime Unraveled and Kiki out. Peace.